the CEO of Mendell Helium. Nick, great to be talking to you again. We had that great update last week on all the operations from the helium over in Kansas. But today, you've announced you've raised some money. So congratulations. What was the appetite like?
Well, thanks very much, Mark. The appetite was really good. We probably couldn't have picked a worse week to do the raise. I mean, I suppose maybe we're going to be closing the book today, but it was a pretty tough time to be out there raising money. But very strong appetites. We've had support from existing shareholders, support from new investors, support from US investors, and support from the UK as well. It's a nicely spread book, and it sets us up well for the next phase.
No, I think that's really good. I think you make a good point there. So you raised just under 800,000. That's a lot of money to raise in these markets anyway, but considering what's happened this week, I think even better. So that's only got to give you confidence that investors are feeling great about the projects as you are.
Well, it does. I mean, I mean, what I say. I mean, what an awful time to be going out trying to close a book. But I suppose to us, it demonstrates that the quality of the assets shine through. We are. I often say to people, we are the only company listed in London specialising in helium that is actually producing and selling helium. We have a really interesting well called Rost over in Fort Dodge, which is next to Dodge City, which has got a 5.1% composition. Someone told me a week or two ago, someone in the industry, that it's the best development opportunity he's ever seen. So, these are someone else's words, not mine. And I think that's just sort of carried through to investors. And a very significant portion of the money we've raised today is to bring Rost into production. And that is a well that, even on a fairly conservative estimate, if the production is what we think it's going to be, could do over $100,000 of revenue a month. And that sets the company up beautifully. It covers all of our G&A and gives us more to go on and develop further wells in that area.
Great, okay. And I mean, so the money will be deployed mostly to get the Rost well into production, will it? I mean, presumably it will last you, a fair bit longer than that, I'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, there's two main uses of funds. One is to bring Rost into production, and that's sort of broadly, probably a little under half of the amount we've raised. Second use of funds is we are going to change market. This is something we've been looking at for quite some time. We included that in this morning's announcement. We are looking at other UK markets, and AIM is the one that's very obvious, the obvious choice. As much as I hate to say it, I used to be a professional advisor. There is a cost to move markets. We would essentially be an IPO on AIM, so there's going to be legal and accounting costs. And so some of the funds, or a reasonable chunk of the funds, will be used for that as well. These are actually both fairly short-term operations. We're quite well advanced on our plans to move markets. We've already got a CPR in place. We're well advanced on the financial diligence. And Rost itself is a plan that's been ready to go for a while. So, don't take this the wrong way, or investors shouldn't take this the wrong way. We expect to deploy the funds pretty quickly, but we also expect Rost to be in production pretty quickly as well. So it should be money well spent in that regard.
Good. And the timeline was quite short, I think, wasn't it? It was a matter of weeks, I think, to get Rost produced.
Yeah, I've generally quoted somewhere between sort of 6 and 8 weeks. The delta between that is the single biggest cost to bringing Rost in production is to drill a disposal well or complete a disposal well. And one of the things we're looking at is a disused oil well, which is just a few hundred yards away, and actually either recompleting that or ideally just running a tube down the centre of the well so we can dispose of the water through the existing casing. If it's the easy solution, if the well is not caved in on itself, we can run a tube down the centre. We're probably looking at around about 6 weeks. If it's going to be a little bit more complicated, we're looking around about 8 weeks. But either way, we'll be looking to get Rost in production during the course of June. And that's maybe not a dissimilar timetable to AIM. We're going to start that process straight away. I'm always cautious about predicting timings because the diligence can often take on a life of its own. But what we can say to investors is we are literally starting this week on that process, and we're going to run it as quickly as we can.
Excellent, good stuff. But it sounds like everything's sort of lining up then, Nick, to get that production going at the Rost well. Just on what's been happening in the markets generally, I guess being a US-focused company, the tariffs probably don't really affect you.
No, it's an extraordinary time to be out in the markets. There's nothing about the announcements from the US that affect us. I mean, all of our businesses in the US, we're operating in the US, we are selling our helium to a US company, that is Scout Energy. So we are, in that regard, immune from tariffs. We're not importing anything. I mean, the only thing that's imported is me, when I fly across from time to time. So there's no extra cost there. I suppose what we're cognizant on is, I mean, today is a good example. There's the markets are just a sea of red. We have to be cognizant of investor enthusiasm and investor sentiment. Thankfully, we've raised our funds now. We're good to go. But if the world stock markets remain a depressed place, we need to be aware of that. But our business itself is entirely immune from what's going on. And interestingly, where we operate in the US, we're in Kansas. We do a lot of work with Scout. They're based in Texas. These are Trump territories. These are states that are very favourable to the Republican Party, very favourable to Trump. So they're extremely buoyant. The rest of the world might be thinking, is this the right thing to do? We're not sure yet. But down in Kansas and down in Texas, they're absolutely convinced this is right. So the mood there is very positive. Sitting over here in the UK, people are sort of looking at screens thinking, what's happening next? But over where we operate, it's a polar opposite. So, I'm not going to say anything was good about what happened last week with the tariffs, but I think certainly Mendel Helium is is sitting in a good place regarding the position that's in force at the moment.
Good. And of course, in these times, cash is king, and you're already revenue generating, aren't you? And looking when that Roswell comes on to get even more, 100,000 a month there. So, I wouldn't say you're totally immune. No one ever is, but revenue producing or companies moving into significant revenue producing companies are a good place to be at the moment, I'd have thought.
That's what we think. And again, I sort of often say sort of slightly tongue in cheek, we're the only helium company in London producing and selling helium. We are, not a huge amount at the moment, but Rost is a game changer. Get Rost into production based on that helium composition and the pressure that's in the well. This could be a huge change for Mendel Helium, and that is the focus. It's bring that material revenue in. As I say, if it will cover all the G&A, if the numbers are what we think they can be, and give us the opportunity to go on and expand the business further. So it's a big moment for us, and I say tough week, but we're over the moon to have this fundraising concluded, and it gets us our two main objectives: Rost and a move to AIM.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Nick Tulloch, for your update today from Mendel Helium.
Thank you, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at StockBoxMedia.com. Thank you for watching.